Good evening. It's 6 o'clock on Thursday, the 10th of August 2017. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight for the English edition of Aura News, bringing you the day's national top stories translated into English 6 days a week. Through a posting on his Facebook page, Prime Minister Rama has declared that the fire situation will continue to be problematic over the coming days. The Prime Minister informs that the state's capacity to face such situations is inadequate, but he promises to increase such a capacity over the coming 4 years. The Prime Minister informs that 8,261 civil emergency employees, as well as firefighting teams, military forces, staff from city halls and volunteers are all engaged in operations to extinguish fires across the country. The operations to gain control of the fires continue as we battle extremely high temperatures which have favoured the spread of fires all over the Mediterranean region. We have engaged 8,261 people from the Civil Emergency Department, fire brigades, armed forces, municipal staff and volunteers, supported by 973 vehicles and 5 aircraft. The fire situation remains difficult. Our capacity to face such threats is limited. Over the next 4 years, we need to build towards adequate capacity. However, the facts do reflect the colossal amount of work done under rather strenuous conditions. Only 8 out of 280 fires are still active. This figure is expected to reduce thanks to preparedness as well as great coordination and cooperation between the local and central government, declared the Prime Minister. Albania is ranked among the countries with the highest number of fires this summer. The Chief of the Civil Emergency Service has announced that there have been 600 fires registered in the past 3 months, burning thousands of hectares of bushes of land. The Chief said that 11 fires erupted in the past 24 hours, with two firefighters having been injured during operations to extinguish the flames. The civil emergencies report that the situation is still concerning at the Kraba Tunnel near Daiti Mountain, at Bagovo Park near Berat, at the Jorgusat village near Gjirokasta, and at Surije Kalter in Vlorë. A fire also erupted in Tirana at the artificial lake. The situation was concerning in Finish, where helicopters from Greece helped gain control of the flames. It was during this operation that 2 firefighters were slightly injured. The Viva company has also provided assistance, sending its helicopters all around the country to battle flames. It is calculated that Viva helicopters have fought for 200 hours, helping the Civil Emergency Service with the difficult situation across the country. The specialists of the Civil Emergency Service are keeping the situation under constant monitoring throughout the country. The high temperatures have significantly increased the risk of fires, but most concerning are those that have been deliberately lit or caused by the carelessness of citizens. The administrative unit of Ulëz in Diber continues to be one of the most problematic areas and most at risk of fire. This morning, a large fire posed a significant risk to local houses. Dozens of hectares of pines were burned as a result of the inferno. The mountainous terrain made the intervention of firefighters difficult, and military forces had to come to aid. The situation was the same in another area near Ulëz, where some blazes are still active. Air intervention is expected, as it is the only opportunity to gain control of the situation. Some Aura News sources said that 8 individual fires are still active in the Bulqiz area and that firefighters and military forces are working to extinguish the flames. However, the spread of fire is being favoured by strong winds, and hence the effort to normalise the situation continues. The Chief of the Emergency Service, Mr. Prenci, held a meeting with Tirana's prefect and firefighting service to discuss the fire situation. The Chief of the Emergency Service declared that the country is also at risk from earthquakes and floods. Referring to the situation which occurred in 1967, Mr. Prenci had this to say: "We will have another problem after the high temperatures. We should bear in mind that earthquakes happen in this certain period of time. 50 years have passed since the earthquakes of 1967, and this current period coincides with a high risk of earthquakes in Albania. We should be careful and expect such a situation, as the first earthquakes have already started in Elbasan. Let's pray that the earthquakes are without consequence, but let's also be prepared that the risk of a significant earthquake by the end of 2017 or the beginning of 2018 is real. We should also be prepared for the intense rainfall that will come after the drought of the summer. We will face the first rainfall after September, and there will be floods that will block whole channels. Meanwhile, Tirana's prefect declared that local government requires more funding in order to handle emergencies. Regarding the fire situation, the chief of the emergency service asked for more monitoring of forest areas. He mentioned that if emergency services are notified earlier, it is much easier to get the fires under control as they begin. Mr. Prenchi declared that the emergency services and local government are cooperating to ensure that everything is being done to manage the situation accordingly. Tirana's City Hall has begun its operation to check that gas stations are operating with all necessary documents and licences. The Vice Mayor declared that there will be zero tolerance for violators of the law and that administrative measures, including the blocking of trade activity, will be applied. None of Tirana's gas stations have both applied for licences and provided all the necessary documents in order to legally exert their activity. Currently, 173 gas stations operate in the capital and almost none of them have applied to be equipped with a licence as per their legal obligation. In a city where we are asking citizens to fulfil their obligations and pay taxes, we simply cannot allow big businesses or small businesses to make profits without first adhering to their obligations, declared the Vice Mayor. He went on to add that there is a reason why a tolerant approach to gas stations operating illegally has been adhered to thus far, stating, "The reason we are at this point is that we wanted to give time to the owners of gas stations to go through the application process. Last year, there was a judicial discussion for which the leeway period has now ended, and the decision of the Council of Ministers has been reinvigorated with new values. Now, there is no reason that gas stations should continue to operate in this way," declared the Vice Mayor. He called on the business owners to apply for licences as per their legal obligation. The Vice Mayor reiterated that no business in Tirana will be allowed to operate illegally without paying their financial obligations. The State Supreme Audit Commission has filed a lawsuit to prosecute 4 directors and 2 persons responsible of individual sectors at the Roskovec City Hall. The SSA accuses the officials of dereliction of duty and determined that the economic damage caused to the state budget by their actions equals 38.2 million lek. After auditing the City Hall of Roskovec, the SSA found violations and irregularities relating to public procurement. The SSA found that the directors had unfairly rejected tender offers of lower values from companies, instead choosing to accept higher quotations from alternative economic operators. Through these actions, the cost to the state budget is determined to be a damage of 38.2 million lek. The State Supreme Audit urges the City Hall of Roskovec to take measures and eliminate such practices that have a severe negative impact on the state budget. Kosovo's parliament once again failed to elect a new Assembly Speaker and Vice Speakers because of lacking the necessary quorum. The representatives from the parties, the Democratic Party of Kosovo, the Alliance for the Future of Kosovo and the PAN coalition didn't take part in the session, and the chairperson was forced to interrupt the proceedings. The chairperson declared that they needed only 61 lawmakers, but that they couldn't proceed without the PAN coalition representatives. Also, lawmakers from the minorities, who have 20 seats in the Assembly, were absent in today's session. Yesterday, the representatives of the PAN coalition announced that they would not participate in today's plenary session. The coalition should have at least 61 votes for the election of the Assembly Speaker and also for the formation of the new government. However, the ruling coalition does not have the necessary votes. In an effort to ensure the votes, the candidate for Prime Minister and part of the PAN coalition, Ramush Haradinaj, met with the chairman of the party, the Alliance for the Future of Kosovo. It has been learned that the meeting was constructive, but the parties have not confirmed if they did in fact reach any agreement. According to Kosovo's constitution, the Assembly Speaker is proposed by the largest parliamentary group and is elected with a majority of votes in Parliament. In this case, the Democratic Party of Kosovo should be proposing the name of the Assembly Speaker. The Parliament cannot continue with any other procedure for the formation of institutions until an Assembly Speaker is elected. The 15-day phase for the formation of government starts only after the election of the Assembly Speaker. 2 months have passed since the early general elections were held on June 11. The Assembly of Kosovo is still not fully constituted, and the new government is still awaiting its complete ascension. That's all for our English edition this evening. My name is Alexandra. Please join me again Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. for your local news in English. On behalf of Aura News, thank you and good night.